Hello and welcome to another reading vlog. So this week I'm simply reading the books that have come in at the library. On audio I have Anna O, and I believe that this is a thriller about a woman who commits murder in her sleep and then subsequently falls asleep unable to be woken for many years. I have How to Be French, so this is a non-fiction and it's full of photographs and illustrations and it's a non-fic. And then I'm also going to read the book that I purchased at the bookstore on a whim that I knew nothing about, and that is Bluebeard's Castle. Okay, so I have just finished How to Be French. The formatting is lovely. It's very pretty, very easy on the eyes. I love that at the end of every chapter there is a little brief synopsis wrapping up the key points of the chapters. It is on the lighter side, so it doesn't go in depth, but there are some historical facts written in it. So I'd say it's probably a middle ground book where if you don't want to have something that's very text heavy and very in depth, but you don't want something that's just pictures with a smattering of text, this is a good in between. I enjoyed my time with it. I only wish that Australia also adopted a 35-hour work week with a 2-hour lunch every day. That would be amazing and a much better quality of life, but alas, we are not France. But otherwise, if I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it a 4 stars, but it was a very quick and easy read and I enjoyed it.
Bluebell's helping Valentine pack for camp. Hello. Hello. Where's Bluebell? There she is.
Okay, so I have just finished Bluebeard's Castle. How do I even describe this book? Well, disappointing, I would say. I would not call it erotica. The sex scenes are not described. You're just told, we had sex, I orgasmed lots, he went down on me, we had sex, lots of orgasms. It's very non-descriptive. This book reads like a movie. So is that a good thing? I'm not sure. It definitely just feels like a screenplay. I don't even know when it's set. I think it's contemporary. They do reference the 1950s a lot, so I think this book is going for the 1950s aesthetic. However, I think it's placed later than that. The main character, she feels ditzy. And even though she supposedly writes novels and is very familiarized with narcissists and abuse, and even excerpts from real life books are referenced in this. I think it's Why Does He Do This? I can't remember the name of the book that's referenced, but the big, huge whole page of what narcissistic abuse looks like is written in there. She finds herself in a marriage with a narcissist who abuses her and who is financially grifting her. But obviously she is stuck in the cycle. She tries to leave, she goes back, she tries to leave, she goes back. So it's this back and forth. It's obviously meant to mirror Bluebeard, the tale of Bluebeard, who, had a room full of dead wives. And so this guy has he been killing his previous wives? The mystery element is not that strong though. It's frustrating to read. I will not say that the writing is great. I think this is a debut novel from a director, but there was a lot of telling and not showing, and it was just odd. It was very odd. Like I said, I wouldn't call it a sexy time. No, my biggest issue with this was how frequently rape was mentioned. He would say to her, "You better put some clothes on or I'm going to rape you." And she was constantly trying to figure out whether they were having sex or if he was just raping her. And it's a bit ick, it's not a nice book. They reference other Gothic books a lot. So Rebecca is mentioned a lot in Jane Eyre, and there are parallels in the book. So it is kind of imitating previous Gothic tales, but I just didn't think this was very good. I've given it 3 stars because I really like the cover and the production style. And the idea of it is cool. It could have been executed a lot better. I don't know. I just didn't want to give it anything less than a 3. But if I'm being realistic, it's probably a 2.5. So I have rounded it up for Goodreads. There was a lot of mention too of labels, Prada, Gucci, that kind of thing, and vanity. Vanity is a very big theme in this book. But I'll say they've got the topics listed here. So we've got sexual ambivalence, psychological self-torture, gaslighting, family neglect, alcoholism, domestic abuse. And it's supposed to be filled with dark humor. I wouldn't say so. I don't know. Is it meant to be satire? I don't know. I struggle with that sometimes. Like, is it satire? Is it just not good? I'm not sure. I know people said it was campy. I feel like it was trying to be campy, but it didn't quite get there. And then the ending, it was so frustrating. And I read it a few times because I was like, no, surely this is a joke and it's a surprise. Got you. But no, the ending was legit. So this spontaneous purchase did not turn out well, I guess. I'll just be donating this to a little library and passing it on. But yeah, I just had such high hopes, and I guess the Goodreads lower rating was legitimate in regards to this. I don't know, maybe you have to look at it with a more humorous eye. I know, like I said, some movies of Love Witch and that, they are a bit over the top and silly in a way, and I guess this is too, but this was just frustrating to read. And because you're not getting the beautiful visuals of the film, I think that's what really subtracts from it. Maybe if this had been made into a gorgeously aesthetic film, different story, you might be like, oh, that was really cool, that was great. But as a book, I don't think it quite works. And I know this was meant to be a film, and instead the author turned it into a novel. But yeah, this was a bit of a miss for me. So I'm still listening to Anna O, and I decided to pick up Queen of Roses, I believe it's called. So that's coming from the library. So I'll touch base with you once I have done some more reading. Oh, and yesterday I did not go to the book club, as you might have seen by the lack of footage. My daughters had tummy aches and I had a massive headache. Hey, Blue. What a cutie. So I did not go. She got me with a towel. Now I've got cat hair all over my face. What's new? So I didn't go to the book club. It was a bit of a yucky day too, and I was exhausted and I didn't want to leave my kids when they weren't feeling well. Luckily, we're all fine. I know that gastro was going around, so that was a big fear, but no, all good. So I will try to definitely get there next month. Fingers crossed. If I don't, then I'm not obviously going to ever get there. It's just the evening is a bit tricky for me, so we'll see. They're reading I think it's In Between by Tolkias. I don't remember. I haven't got the words in front of me. But I will see when I've next read a book.
If I fits, I sits.
Hello. So I have finished all the rest of the books off for this week. Anna O. I DNF'd at I think around 4 hours of the audiobook. It was just very boring, and I found the main doctor guy to be a bit of a wanker. And it was just taking too long to get into the mystery of whether or not she was aware that she was killing the people, or she was actually fully sleepwalking while she did it. And I just didn't want to push anymore. I just wasn't really captivated or grasped or entertained, to be honest, at all. So I did decide to DNF that one. And then I picked up Queen of Roses, and I DNF'd this after 100 pages. So I gave it a good solid try. So this book is definitely Camelot inspired. I remember saying, well, her name's Morgan Pendragon, but it didn't mention Camelot or Arthurian legends, but it is. Everyone is from those legends, and some of the characters have been gender swapped, like Lancelot and Merlin. They're now both women. So the premise was interesting, but the character Morgan, if you're expecting her to be anything like the badass Morgan Le Fay, you will be sorely disappointed. She's not. She spent most of that 100 pages complaining about how ugly her grey hair is. So her hair turned grey and she cannot get over it. And she keeps reminding herself and everyone how awful and ugly she looks because she has grey hair. And I'm like, no, can we not vilify grey hair, please? I have friends that were going grey in their teens. It's not, your hair colour does not determine your beauty, right? So she was coming just across as very naive, very childish, really immature, really insecure, and I could not read about a Morgan Le Fay character with that personality and characteristics. It just, no. And the scene opens in the book. The first chapter is her mother allowing herself to be beaten to death in front of her child. So the king is abusive and he starts hitting her, and the mother does not fight back. Even though her daughter is watching from underneath the bed, she doesn't fight back, she doesn't yell, she doesn't scream, she doesn't try to get away. She just lays there while he beats her to death. And yeah, I'm like, no. So DNF'd that one too. And then I picked up Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. So, okay, this is an interesting little book. It's very tiny. I do like Claire Keegan's very quiet, understated way of writing. It is very beautiful and calming in a way. This book, though, is skirting around a very problematic, severe topic. So it's to do with nuns, and it's based on a real life situation of what was occurring in these Irish towns. And I understand that maybe it's skirting around it because the people in the village and everyone who lived there also skirted around it and pretended not to see it or not to acknowledge what was going on, what was happening to these young girls. So I guess in a way it's mirroring that. But at the same time, it's a novel. And I'm like, can we shine a light, please, and focus more on what's happening to these women rather than this gentleman and his day-to-day business walking around town. Like, I understand I'm seeing now with Claire, she does like to focus on the mundanity of life and the domestic and just the everyday small things. But this one had a very large thing happening in the background. And like I said, it was just in the peripheral, you know, you're like, something seedy, something bad is going on. And like, this gentleman is a lovely character, but I wanted to actually know more about what's going on because I hadn't actually heard this historical event. I was completely unaware of this part of Irish history, and I wanted then to learn more about it, but this does not satisfy that curiosity. But like I said, I do like Claire's writing. As far as like a story goes, it was a little lackluster in terms of the plot, I guess, and the happenings. But the setting and the place was also beautiful. I could very much see Ireland while I was there. But yeah, I still, like I said, I enjoyed the writing most of all, and I will definitely just continue to pick up Claire's work as I go on. But I'll have to remind myself that it's less about the plot and it's just more about the feeling and the writing, and I guess a little bit of a character study rather than anything else. And I picked up The Exception to the Rule. So this is another little mini novella that was part of the Improbable Meet Cute kind of series at Amazon Unlimited, I think we're doing. And this one is by Christina Lauren, and that's 2 people, so it's 2 authors. And I've given it 4 stars. So I didn't love it as much as The Worst Wingman Ever by Abby Jimenez, which packed a punch. This one was less emotional and just more cute and fluffy. Basically, you've got 2 teenagers who meet each other because one of them accidentally emails them instead of their teacher about an assignment on Valentine's Day. And they end up just doing this back and forth. Every year on Valentine's Day, they just send each other some emails. They keep it purely anonymous. But over the decades, like it's more than 10 years, they obviously form some kind of affection for each other, I guess. And then they finally decide to meet in real life. That's like, I think that's what stops it from being more than a 4, because it's like, you're telling me you've spent over 10 years and you haven't tried to meet each other in real life to see what you're like. Like, I don't buy it. Humans are too curious to go that long without knowing. Like, we're very much a generation now of wanting immediate knowledge and instant gratification. One is playing the long game for that long before going, hey, maybe we should meet up. And there's also some situations that happen where I'm like, could you not have guessed the person's identity? Because these are student emails, so they have the first initial of their name and then the next 3 initials of their surname. So it's not completely anonymous. Obviously, you have to suspend your disbelief a bit. It was fun though. Most of the book is written in email form, so back and forth of their email transcripts before they meet in real life. And then instead of just ending, this does do a bit of an epilogue, unlike the others, which are really, unlike The Wingman, which was just as soon as they meet, that's it. But yeah, it's a fun time, you know. I really highly recommend these as definitely palette cleansers. You know, they sort of refresh you in between books because they're so short and they're very sweet and they're very wholesome. So I'm glad I picked it up so I could end this on a bit of a higher note. But that was everything for this vlog. Until next time, stay wild, star child.